My dear student, I think all of you are safe and enjoying your holiday with your parents. So be careful. Today our country condition is not so good. That is alarming sign of corona crisis. Please stay home and enjoy your parents and brothers and sisters. Students, now I want to discuss a topic which is very important for your examination and your daily practices, which is portal hypertension. Portal hypertension. Before going to the topics, I want to discuss the anatomy of the portal vein. General concept, portal vein anatomy. You know, portal vein consists of formed by the splenic vein and the superior mesenteric vein, portal vein, and is enter into the liver and it drain the blood into the liver. From the liver through the hepatic vein, it drain into the inferior vena cava. So it is formed by the splenic vein and superior mesenteric vein. This is portal vein formed by the union of the splenic and superior mesenteric vein. It is 7 to 8 centimeter length, and very important is it contains no valve. Now, definition of the portal hypertension. Of course, when pressure is increased in portal vein, it is called portal hypertension. So you have to know that what is the normal pressure of the portal vein. Usually it is 6 to 7 centimeter. If it is raised more than 10 to 12 millimeter, it is called portal hypertension. Not only on pressure in the portal vein, it may be defined if the portal venous pressure, if the hepatic venous pressure more than 4 millimeter mercury. So it is defined by elevation of portal pressure more than 10 millimeter mercury or hepatic venous pressure gradient more than 4 millimeter mercury. Normal portal pressure is 7 millimeter mercury. Now, etiology. If you know the force of the portal vein, you can remember easily about the etiology of the portal hypertension. Any site of force of portal vein, any site of the course of portal vein, if obstruction occurs, it increases the portal venous pressure and producing portal hypertension. Now, if we divide the etiology according to site of obstruction, what happened? This is the prehepatic. Usually it occurs in the portal vein pathology, and this is the intrahepatic. It again divided into the pre-sinusoidal, sinusoidal and post-sinusoidal, and this is the post-hepatic. So you have to know the basic anatomy or structure of the liver and also the site of obstruction of the portal vein. It is diagrammatic picture. This is the one that is, it is pre-sinusoidal vein. This is the pre-sinusoidal vein. This is the sinusoidal. This is the post-sinusoidal, and it is the hepatic vein and inferior vena cava. Now, I already discussed about the site of obstruction is extrahepatic, prehepatic, intrahepatic, posthepatic of idiopathic. Now, what are the cause of extrahepatic cause? The extrahepatic cause very important. It is a portal vein. Portal vein thrombosis, portal vein and splenic vein thrombosis. So what are the causes of portal vein and splenic vein thrombosis? This is very important because it occurs in neonatal period. So what are the causes of portal and splenic vein thrombosis? Number one cause in neonatal period is umbilical infection or sepsis. Number two, umbilical catheterization. Umbilical catheterization. Number three, neonatal dehydration. Neonatal dehydration. Number four, any systemic infection in neonatal period. These are the causes of neonatal causes of portal vein thrombosis. Very important. And other cause are intra-abdominal infection. Intra-abdominal infection. Intra-abdominal infection, such as acute appendicitis, acute pancreatitis, and sclerosing cholangitis, hypercoagulable state. These causes portal vein and splenic thrombosis, and it is rare. Portal vein agenesis, atresia, stenosis, it is rare. Another cause divided into intrahepatic. Another cause is called intrahepatic. This is cirrhosis, main important cirrhosis, and acute and chronic viral hepatitis. Of course, hepatotoxic drug methotrexate, and congenital hepatic fibrosis, Bardet syndrome, Vann-Obrosis disease, and schistosomiasis. Among these, most common cause is cirrhosis. If you think what are the cause of cirrhosis, this chronic viral hepatitis is one of the cause of cirrhosis. Hepatotoxic drug is one of the cause of cirrhosis. Congenital hepatic fibrosis is one of the cause of cirrhosis, and Wilson disease also one of the cause of cirrhosis. So intrahepatic, most important is the cirrhosis of the liver. Now posthepatic most important is the biliary tract disease. That is extrahepatic biliary atresia, very important. Other is though rare, may occur cholelitical cyst, sclerosing cholangitis, cystic fibrosis. So if we ask in Viva board, what are the causes of portal hypertension? Your first answer portal and splenic vein thrombosis. Number two is cirrhosis. Number three is biliary atresia. Very common causes, and three causes you should tell in the Viva board. And why you ask what are the causes of portal and splenic vein thrombosis in neonatal period? You tell the umbilical sepsis, umbilical catheterization, and neonatal dehydration, neonatal sepsis, and also the hypercoagulable state. Now, another term is pathogenesis. Before pathogenesis, you have to know the course of the portal vein. This is the course of the portal vein. You think this is the splenic vein. This is the superior mesenteric vein. There is pathology in the portal vein. or in it's in the liver or in the outside the liver. So if anywhere there is the obstruction, the flow of the portal vein is reversed. That is, usually portal vein is enter into the liver, and from liver through the hepatic vein it goes to the inferior vena cava. But this normal flow is it does not occur, and its flow is reversed. So portal vein, venous blood, and again come back to the portal vein, splenic vein, and the superior mesenteric vein, and producing photosystemic anastomosis. Collateral develops and producing collateral circulation. So blood can enter from the portal vein in the systemic circulation and producing various type of manifestations. This is the, if I summarize, what are the pathogenesis of the portal hypertension. The portal blood flow of course increase, portal blood flow increase and increase resistance, and portal vein tributaries, there is high resistance developed in the portal vein tributaries, and development of collaterals and debiting blood from the portal vein into the systemic vein, and which leads to photosystemic shunting. Now, site of photosystemic anastomosis. You have to know, it's asked in the Viva board. If you look at the picture, there is the anastomosis site. It is the left gastric vein, it is the tributary of the portal vein, and is anastomosis in the lower end of the esophagus with the tributary of the azygos vein. And this development of esophageal varices, it is very important for bleeding manifestation in case of portal hypertension. Another very common site is rectum. Rectum, the tributaries of the superior rectal vein, it is the portal vein tributaries, and all tributaries of the inferior and middle rectal vein, which is the caval vein. So there is photosystemic anastomosis, and there is collateral developed if there is rupture of this hemorrhoidal vein producing fresh rectal bleeding. Another anastomosis site is the periumbilical region. Umbilicus, at the umbilicus, this is called the caput medusa. This is formed by the tributaries of the paraumbilical vein, which is the tributaries of the paraumbilical vein, tributaries of the portal vein, and anastomosis is the superior abdominal vein, which is the tributaries of the caval vein. So there is the portocaval anastomosis, collateral development, which leads to caput medusa. And another three site, usually uncommon, that is bare area of the liver and retroperitoneal region. Now, consequence of the portal hypertension. What is the consequence of portal hypertension? If you know the pathophysiology, what happened? Patient development of varices. Varices. Why varices development? Due to the development of collaterals, due to photosystemic anastomosis, due to photosystemic shunting or anastomosis. And so, what happened? Photosystemic collaterals, in normal condition, these vein are collapsed, portal vein and which tributaries are collapsed. But in portal hypertension, engorged and divert blood flow away from the portal circulation. And splenomegaly. Why splenomegaly occurs in the portal hypertension? Because there is congestion occurs in the spleen. So there is spleen enlarged. It is constant physical findings. Without splenomegaly, you should not tell the patient suffering from portal hypertension until proved otherwise. So, it most constant physical findings, 80% of patient regardless of the cause, with progress of portal hypertension and due to splenic congestion. Another consequences occurs in the GI tract. Whole GI tract may involve due to congestion, lead to anorexia, dyspepsia, indigestion, even patient develop malabsorption. Bleeding varices due to rupture of the varices, either from the esophageal varices or of the rectal varices. If bleeding from the esophageal varices, then bright blood with vomiting. If from the rectal varices, rupture of the rectal varices, it produces fresh rectal bleeding. Ascites. Usually, portal hypertension alone cannot produce ascites. So ascites, how ascites occurs? If liver function deteriorate, it produces albumin, low albumin synthesis. So low albumin synthesis, low osmotic colloidal osmotic pressure, low colloidal osmotic pressure, and producing edema. Number one cause. Number two, there is also the hormonal imbalance. That is aldosterone, ADH secretion increase. It also retention the salt and water. And number three, of course, there is increased lymphatic transudation from the liver surface, and which localize the collection of the fluid in the peritoneal cavity. So there is 3 to 4 causes occurs for the synthesis of the or genesis of the ascites. So you should remember, and it is asked in the Viva board, what are the causes of ascites in the portal hypertension? This is portal hypertension alone cannot cause ascites. Hypovolemia below 3 gram per 100 ml, salt and water retention due to high level of aldosterone, estrogen and antidiuretic hormone, and increased lymphatic transduction from the liver surface. Now another consequences is congestive gastropathy. Now complication. If you know the pathophysiology or pathogenesis of the portal hypertension, you easily tell the complication. So number one complication is hematemesis and melena. Hematemesis and melena. If hematemesis occurs, it gives rise to bright blood or bright fresh blood. If melena occurs, you think blood goes to the blood from the upper GI tract goes to the colon and give rise to alter color of the stool, melena. And if bleeding from the rectum, it gives rise to fresh rectal bleeding. So number one complication is hematemesis and melena. Number two is congestive gastropathy. Why congestive gastropathy? Because there is congestion of the whole GI tract and more pronounced in the stomach and producing congestive gastropathy and give rise to erosion and ultimately GI tract bleeding. Erosion and GI tract bleeding. This is the ascite is an caput medusa. This is esophageal varices and GI tract bleeding. Rectal varices, hemorrhoidal bleeding. And look at the picture. The normal spleen is modified into the congested form and gives rise to the appearance of this type. This hypersplenism, splenomegaly, thrombocytopenia. That is the definition of the hypersplenism. Now, how can you diagnose I tell you, when you ask for diagnosis, how to diagnose any disease, not portal hypertension, you think diagnose from the history. History include symptoms or presenting complaints, risk factors. And these contain history. So here, what is the symptom? What is the symptom? Symptom recurrent bout of blood vomiting. Why recurrent bout of blood vomiting? Due to rupture of the esophageal varices. Black tarry stool. Why black tarry stool? Because blood from the upper GI tract when goes to the colon, the color of the stool becomes changed and black tarry stool when it is contact with the oxygen. And breast or rectal bleeding due to rupture of the hemorrhoidal vein and rupture of the varices of the lower rectum. And of course, if there is impaired with the liver function, patient develop jaundice. In that case, patient develop ULI. And some patient may develop abdominal distension. This is due to ascites. So these are the main symptoms usually patient present with us. Now these are symptoms. May present with complication. What complication? There may be hepatic encephalopathy. That is, patient may present with altered sleep irritability. Some patient may present with shock due to massive hemorrhage. Some patient may present with bleeding complication, bleeding manifestation, that's a coagulopathy. And some patient may develop abdominal pain, fever. It is due to spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. So, some patient may present with complication. Hepatic encephalopathy, shock, coagulopathy, and spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. Now, history of risk factor, very important. If you not ask the patient for risk factor, you cannot diagnose the disease easily. So, what are the risk factor? You take the history. If blood transfusion, IV drug users, because hepatitis B virus and C virus transmitted by this process and give rise to chronic hepatitis, ultimately give rise to liver cirrhosis, then patient may develop portal hypertension. There is intratubular infection. It is very important for the portal and splenic vein thrombosis. So you have to ask the patient if patient have any acute appendicitis or acute pancreatitis or symptoms of sclerosing cholangitis. You should take the birth history, and there is umbilical sepsis, catheterization, which may lead to the portal vein thrombosis. And of course, you should take the drug history, hepatic toxic drug or toxic drug methotrexate for a long time if it takes more long time, and should ask for family history, because you know the some disease which are hereditary in the family. This is the Wilson disease. So you should you should ask the patient for this risk factor. Now, physical examination, that is sign. So in history, then we should do the examination. General examination and systemic examination. So in systemic general examination, what is the appearance? Can you tell me what the appearance of the patient in case of portal hypertension? Appearance? Ill looking, not normal looking, ill looking, and or if patient suffering from liver cirrhosis, patient appearance is changed with the hepatic pains. Hepatic pains means there is hollow sac with prominent zygoma. Then pallor. Pallor. Why pallor occurs? It may occurs in portal hypertension. It acts in Viva mode. It may be mild, it may be moderate, it may be severe due to the degree of bleeding. Why pallor occurs? Number one cause is ruptured varices. Number one cause is ruptured varices. Ruptured varices. So ruptured varices occurs and the esophageal varices ruptured or occurs in the rectal varices. Ruptured rectal varices. Number two is congestive gastropathy. Congestive gastropathy. Gastropathy which leads to gastric erosion, ultimately bleeding. And number three is coagulopathy. Why coagulopathy? Because due to deterioration of the hepatic function which leads to disease, decreased synthesis of the clotting factor and lead to coagulopathy. Coagulopathy. And number four cause is hypersplenism. 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 So there is 3 to 4 cause of pallor or anemia in portal hypertension. Jaundice may be present. Jaundice usually not present. If present is hepatic. Usually hepatic function is impaired and edema develop. Why edema develop? If patient develop hypoalbuminemia. Usually hypoalbuminemia may patient with shock. Shock. How can you diagnose the shock clinically? The cold coming extremity, rapid and steady pulse, hypertension, and capillary refill time more than 3 seconds. What is stigmata of CLD? Stigmata of CLD means primary arrhythmia. Number 2 is spider nevi. Number 3, clubbing. Number 3, leukocythia. Number 4, wasting of the thenar and hypothenar muscles. Number 5, in male, there is gynecomastia and testicular atrophy. In case of female, there is breast atrophy and irregular menstruation. And vital sign, if there is massive hemorrhage, in that case vital sign may be unstable. Anthropometry, you should do the anthropometry, there is growth failure. So these are the signs we usually found in general examination in case of portal hypertension. Now what are the signs we get from the systemic examination? Systemic examination, usually systemic examination, abdomen. Usually systemic examination done in abdomen. What findings you get from abdominal examination? Very important. Signs of portal hypertension. Usually signs of portal hypertension. This picture very important for your OSPE. You see the ascites. So abdomen is distended and engorged abdominal vein. And there is also development of collateral circulation. This is very important. And ascites, how can you diagnose ascites clinically? Distended abdomen, umbilicus is transversely slit and everted, and there is fluid thrill on palpation and shifting dullness on percussion. And if there is small amount of fluid in the peritoneal cavity, in that case you may not get the fluid thrill and shifting dullness. In that case you do the Fudel sign. So there is 3 signs to diagnose the ascites. One is fluid thrill, another is shifting dullness, and another one is Fudel sign. This is the caput medusa. This is the caput medusa. What do you mean caput medusa? There is the central vein, as there is the caput medusa radiating vein from the umbilicus. Radiating vein from the umbilicus. This is the collateral development of collaterals at the level of the umbilicus. Now, what are the signs? On examination of the abdomen, angles, abdominal vein, anterior abdominal vein, caput medusa, splenomegaly, it is invariably present. Splenomegaly mild, moderate or gross. So, you may get the mild, moderate or gross splenomegaly. It is invariably present. Without splenomegaly, you diagnosis of portal hypertension is unusual. Ascites, which is evident by the abdominal distension and transversely slit umbilicus and everted, and fluid fill on palpation and shifting dullness on percussion. And in case of small lethargies, you get the Fudel sign. And liver, of course, liver may be enlarged. This is shrunken and hard if there is cirrhosis. If there is cirrhosis, it is shrunken and hard. And if there is chronic liver disease, that is cirrhosis, in cases right lower liver is shrunken, but left lower liver is enlarged. If male, you should examine the genitalia. In that case, testis may be atrophied. These are the signs. I think it is not so much visible. Portal hypertension symptom and sign. There is the esophageal varices. There is caput medusa, hypersplenism, and there is the hemorrhoidal vein. And this sign is evident in this picture. Now investigation. Investigation again, you can divide the routine investigation for diagnosis, for etiology, for complication, for treatment. So, investigation is divided into 4 to 5 headings. This already I told here, the routine, specific, etiology, complication or for treatment. Now, routine investigation, very important. Among the routine investigation, what do you do? Complete blood count. Why complete blood count? For see the hypersplenism. Hypersplenism characterized by the pancytopenia. Not always pancytopenia, maybe any one of the blood cell in the blood may be reduced. Anemia, leukemia, thrombocytopenia. It is the findings of the complete blood count. But what do you mean by hypersplenism? It is asked in Viva board. There is 4 to 5 components. Number 1 component is gross splenomegaly. Gross splenomegaly, and if you do the peripheral blood print, you get the reduction of one or more blood cell in peripheral blood film. And increase the third fellow increase cellularity of the bone marrow. Increase cellularity of the bone marrow, and fourth one is improvement of the blood picture after splenectomy. Improvement of the blood picture after splenectomy. So there is 4 to 5 pictures of splenomegaly. Number 1 is huge splenomegaly or gross splenomegaly. Number 2, reduction of the one or more blood cell in the peripheral blood stream. Number 3, increased cellularity of the in bone marrow. Number 4, improvement of the blood picture after splenectomy. So it is called the hypersplenism. And number 2 is liver function test and coagulation profile. serum bilirubin, SGPT, SGUT, alkaline phosphatase, all are altered, albumin low, and prothrombin time prolonged. And to establish the diagnosis, very important for diagnosis, there is non-invasive method and invasive method. Non-invasive method and invasive method. Among the non-invasive method, the barium swallow extract the esophagus, ultrasonography of the abdomen, Doppler flow of the ultrasonography, and among the invasive method, upper GI tract endoscopy and the arteriography of the portal vein. And non-invasive method, barium swallow esophagus usually not done now, and it to see the varices, and ultrasonography done to know the liver architecture, splenic size, splenic condition, and patency of the portal vein and splenic vein and ascites. And Doppler flow ultrasonography is very important to see the direction of the blood flow in the hepatic and portal vein. And invasive method usually done to diagnose the esophageal varices, upper GI tract endoscopy, varices and grade. And grade is usually asked in Viva board. Grade 1 when visible during inspiration. Visible during inspiration. Grade 1. Grade 1 visible during inspiration. And grade 2 visible during both inspiration and expiration. Grade 3, it occupies the lumen less than 50%, and grade 4, it occupies the more than 50%. So there is 4 grade. 4 grade. And angiography of the portal vein pressure abnormality is very important and diagnostic. Angiography of the portal vein pressure abnormality, it is diagnostic. Now, to find out the other mission, to find out the etiology, viral marker, B virus, C virus. You know that B virus and C virus very important for chronic hepatitis, which leads to liver cirrhosis and ultimately give rise to portal hypertension. And you should exclude the Wilson disease by doing the serum cellular plasmin, which is low, and 24 urinary copper excretion, it is high. It is usually found in Wilson disease. And of course, if you do the liver biopsy, this diagnosis is confirmatory to find out the etiology. And some investigation do for the treatment purpose, blood grouping and cross matching for blood transfusion if patient is in shock or massive hemorrhage. Now treatment. Again, treatment is divided into under 4 to 5 heading. Before write down treatment, you should think the condition of the patient. If the patient is emergency situation, you should manage that patient first, then counseling the patients. If you start for counseling the parents without treatment the patient will die in front of you. So you should think the emergency condition. Always think the emergency condition. So treatment purpose, there is of course portal hypertension as an emergency situation. If there is ruptured varices, if patient present with you with ruptured varices, you treat the emergency management. Of course, you first refer to the patient for hospital for hospitalization. Then on emergency situation, emergency management, what will you do? You do the assessment. You do the resuscitation. You do the treatment of the hepatic encephalopathy if present. You should treat the coagulopathy if present. These are the very important management you should do immediately. Then you should the counseling the parents. Then you should do the control of the esophageal, control of the rupture, bleeding from the rupture varices. Then prevention of recurrence of bleeding. Recurrence of bleeding. These four things include the emergency management. Emergency management. So you should do this fast. And another step is management of complication. Management of other complication. And also management treatment of etiology, underlying etiology. Yes, admission to the patient to the hospital and counseling, emergency management of the acute peripheral bleeding, prophylactic therapy to prevent further bleeding, treatment of complication, treatment of underlying causes, and follow-up prognosis prevention. These all heading should included in the treatment outline. First one is it is emergency case. If patient comes with you with rupture ischemic varices, severe bleeding manifestation, you admit the patient in the hospital and do the emergency management of acute peripheral bleeding and prophylactic therapy to prevent further bleeding, and treatment of complication, treatment of underlying causes, and follow-up prognosis and prevention. These all heading should be included in the treatment outline of any disease, not in case of portal hypertension. This outline is in all disease treatment. Now, emergency management of acute variceal bleeding. Assessment of vital parameters. That is, what do you mean by vital parameters? Pulse, temperature, respiration, BP, and capillary repeating time included. And then your resuscitation and stabilization by the ABC. If patient is in shock, you should manage the patient as ABC management. AROA, breathing and circulation establishment. And if there is volume depletion, you should restore the volume by the normal saline or blood. And of course you do the nasogastric suction. Why do you do the nasogastric suction? Why you should do this? Because there is blood in the pool of blood in the stomach. Stomach contains huge amount of blood, and you should put down the nasogastric tube and suction the blood, and you should give the rest in the stomach and by the nothing by mouth, and also for estimate the amount of blood. So nasogastric tube suction is very important. And treatment of coagulopathy. There is vitamin K dependent factor is reduced by the synthesis by the liver. It is reduced here. So it is given by to restore the function. It gives the injection quinaquion or K1 and fresh frozen plasma or platelet transmission. And prevention of GI bleeding, injection ranitidine. Why GI bleeding? You know that there is congestive gastropathy, gastric erosion. From this there is GI bleeding. To prevent this GI bleeding, you should give the injection ranitidine. And management of varices. There is 4 steps. The pharmacotherapy, endoscopic therapy, mechanical therapy, and surgery. And pharmacotherapy, to reduction of the portal hypertension. These drugs are vasopressin, terlipressin, somatostatin, and octreotide. How they act? They producing strengthening vasoconstriction. Strengthening vasoconstriction increase the vascular tone, strengthening vascular tone, and reduce the portal hypertension. And endoscopic therapy, if bleeding not controlled by the pharmacotherapy, do the endoscopic sclerotherapy or band ligation. And anesthesia therapy, there is many complication. Nowadays, it is usually not done, usually done in band ligation of the varices. And if above two therapy fail, then do the mechanical therapy. Mechanical therapy by the Sangster Blackmore balloon template. It is introduced in the upper stomach. It pressure over the small varices and gastric varices and reduce the bleeding. And if three mechanisms are failed, then you do the surgery, like the transjugular intrahepatic portosystemic shunt. In short tips, it divert the blood from the portal vein into the inferior vena cava. Now, endoscopic sclerotherapy. Endoscopic sclerotherapy, this is the sclerotic agent. Sclerotic agent pushed into the directly into the varices, and it is around the varices. This is the band ligation. Band ligation ligate the varices, ligate the varices. And after ligation, this is fallen off. Now this is balloon tamponade. Sangster Blackmore tamponade. This instrument contains accessory tube for suction and two esophageal balloon and gastric tube for two suction and two gastric balloon, and compress the esophageal varices, compress the stomach to prevent the bleeding. But it is very complicated procedure and side effect is more. This is the shunt operation. The shunt stand. Portal vein. The shunt is interconnected shunt in the tributary of the hepatic vein. So blood from the portal vein directly goes to the inferior vena cava. Now prophylaxis therapy to prevent the further bleeding. Pharmacotherapy, propranolol, exacerbate. How propranolol act? It increase the splanchnic vasculature tone and thereby reduce the portal hypertension. Also reduce the cardiac output, then thereby reduce the portal hypertension. And periodic endoscopic sclerotherapy or vena ligation. And surgery tips, and if there is liver function impaired, in that cases you may do the liver transplantation. So there is prophylactic therapy to prevent further bleeding, pharmacological, endoscopic sclerotherapy, surgery and liver transplantation. Now treatment of complication. Here very important is spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. If patient present with you with fever, abdominal pain, you think patient develop spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. In that case, you will examine the abdomen. You find the abdomen is tender abdomen, and if you get the spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, you treat the patient with parenteral antibiotic. If hepatic encephalopathy and renal or hepatorenal syndrome, and in that case you should treat the patient accordingly. And if patient develop hypersplenism, already I told the signs of hypersplenism, and you should do the splenectomy. Now treatment of underlying causes. The intra-abdominal sepsis. If you get the intra-abdominal sepsis and do antibiotic, give antibiotic, and Wilson disease, corpus treating agent penicillamine. If the etiology B virus infection, interferon alpha plus lemibudin. If C virus infection, you give the interferon plus ribavirin. And if there is due to cause is collateral cyst, you do the surgery. So if you not treat the underlying causes, the portal hypertension not controlled, and patient may suffer from complication. So you should treat these causes if identified. Now, of course, you should follow up the patient. How can you follow up the patient? You follow up the patient for the vitals. Vitals, number 1. Number 2, for complication. Complication, what complication? Complication may be hepatic encephalopathy, may be coagulopathy, may be spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. This should be follow up, and this is clinical follow up. The follow up may be clinical, may be laboratory. In laboratory qualified, you should do the complete blood count. Either patient develop pancytopenia, and you should do the liver function test. And these two are very important investigation. Now after follow-up, next step is prognosis. This follow-up, vitals, complication, shock, hepatic failure, coagulopathy, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. Hepatic failure, coagulopathy, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, and shock. These are very important complications you should follow up. And laboratory follow-up, complete blood count, and liver function test. Now prognosis. Prognosis depends on the etiology. And if intrahepatic cause, if patient already develops cirrhosis, this prognosis is very bad. And most of the patient require shunt operation. So overall prognosis not so good. Now prevention. How can you prevent the portal hypertension? If you know the etiology, then you can prevent the portal hypertension. How? Number one, you start from the neonatal period. So you should special care umbilical catheterization. Treatment of umbilical sepsis. These are very important. Number two, hepatitis B virus vaccination. Number three, genetic counseling in case of Wilson disease. So prevention is meticulous care during umbilical catheterization and umbilical cord care, vaccination against hepatitis B virus, and genetic counseling in Wilson disease. Now, question usually asked in Viva board: hematemesis melana. What are the causes of hematemesis melana in pediatric age group? You first of all you should tell the rupture esophageal varices. Number two, you should tell the Mallory-Weiss syndrome due to vigorous vomiting, tearing of the lower end of esophagus. So Mallory-Weiss syndrome. Number three, PID, peptic ulcer disease, PUD. Number four, coagulopathy. Number five, bleeding diathesis. So there is 4 to 5 causes. Number one cause is rupture of the esophageal varices. Number two, Mallory-Weiss syndrome. Number three, gastric erosion. Number four, gastric erosion due to drugs, usually drug induced. Number four, peptic ulcer diseases. And number five, coagulopathy. Number six is diathesis. Now, there is a problem. Already we discussed that this is a rupture esophageal varices, Mallory-Weiss syndrome, gastric erosion, usually drug induced, peptic ulcer diseases, coagulopathy, bleeding diathesis. Now there is question session. After my lecture, if there is time, I want to join with you video conference through the Facebook messenger. So question sessions. There is question. The 10 years old girl present with fever, abdominal pain, hematemesis, ascites, splenomegaly. You diagnosis. You write down the in this according to my instruction, that you first write down the key point. What is the key point of this picture? Key point means age 10 years, sex girl, clinical features or presentation. So SIP complaint, fever, abdominal pain, hematemesis. These are the SIP complaint. And on examination, you get the ascites and splenomegaly. And write down in this way. Then you write down the from above scenario or from above key points. My diagnosis is. Can you tell me what is diagnosis? This patient 10 years old, girl, fever, symptom fever, abdominal pain, hematemesis, and on examination ascites, splenomegaly. So from above scenario, my diagnosis is. Can you tell me? My diagnosis is chronic liver disease. Chronic liver disease with portal hypertension with spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. If you not write down this spontaneous bacterial, your marks you get not full mark. So in favor spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, patient have fever and abdominal pain. So in case of all SEQ question, you should write down the first of key point, then SIP complaint, then on examination, then from above scenario you may write down the diagnosis, or from above scenario you may write down the differential diagnosis. Now, if you ask in the SEQ question, what are the symptoms, what are the three symptoms, 3 sign, 3 investigation and 3 treatment. So from my lecture already I discussed, from here you should write down the most important 3 clinical features, 3 important sign, 3 investigation and 3 treatment. I think my lecture is finished. Now I don't know whether you understand or not. If already 11 and 30 minutes. So my dear student, thank you all.